Explorer G. Kincaid was rafting the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon when he noticed something strange among the rocks. About 450 meters from the top of the gorge, on a vertical slope, the entrance to the cave was visible. But that was not what interested Kincaid. The thing is that around it, on the wall, there were traces of tools, as if someone was trying to carve something in the stone. When the explorer approached and saw a staircase leading directly to the entrance, Kincaid went inside, and a few dozen meters later came across a room with niches carved into walls, each of which contained an embalmed mummy and ancient relics of a previously unknown civilization. Further research, led by archaeologist and professor of the Smithsonian Institution S. Jordan, showed that the finds were about 4,000 years old. In addition, other rooms with a sanctuary, strange artifacts, and even hieroglyphs similar to ancient Egyptian ones were found in the cave. The most surprising thing is that this find is already more than 100 years old. Kincaid's report was published back in 1909 in a local Arizona newspaper. But why do we still know nothing about the Grand Canyon civilization? Moreover, the Smithsonian Institution claims that these caves do not exist at all. But the newspaper article and eyewitness accounts are not the only evidence that an advanced civilization could once have lived in the Grand Canyon. So why do scientists still deny the existence of this find? The first thing we need to find out is whether Kincaid really found traces of civilization in the Grand Canyon. In the article, which was published according to the words of researcher and Professor S. Jordan, the cave and its rooms are described in great detail. About 17 m from the entrance, in the main tunnel, side oval doors begin to appear, leading to other tunnels and separate rooms, of which more than 100 have been found. One of the largest of these chambers is the crypt that Kincaid found during his first visit. Inside is a mummy and funerary artifacts such as copper cups and sword fragments. This method of burial is somewhat reminiscent of embalming, popular in ancient Egypt from about 3400 BC. Interestingly, all those buried in this room are men. Neither women nor children were found among the bodies. Moreover, the height of the mummies starts from 270 centimeters. It seems that the representatives of this civilization were real giants, much taller than modern people. But what struck the researchers most was something else. They found many inscriptions engraved on tablets, ritual vessels, and even on the walls of the cave. They could not decipher them. The fact is that the writing of the mysterious civilization resembles both petroglyphs found in southern Arizona and Egyptian hieroglyphs. Archaeologists also came across a large number of living rooms that looked quite ascetic and were more like military barracks. They also found a dining room in the cave, inside which there were many samples of kitchen utensils. Apparently, about 50,000 people could live in the cave complex. For comparison, the largest of the currently known underground cities, Derinkuyu, which was built about 1,000 years ago, could only have 20,000 inhabitants. In addition to the living quarters, the cave complex also contained a grain storage room. These rooms were round in shape, and the researchers noticed that they were lined with a material that looked like very hard cement inside. But the archaeologists also came across more eerie finds. One of the chambers caught their attention because it had no ventilation hole. When the researchers looked inside, they saw nothing but darkness. Their flashlights were too weak to illuminate the room. But that wasn't what scared them at all. The chamber had a strange smell, which eyewitnesses described as the stench of death and snakes. It was never possible to examine it in detail because the archaeologists did not dare to go inside. They believed that there might be dangerous gas or chemicals used by an ancient civilization. All these detailed descriptions were contained in the report of archaeologist G. Kincaid and Professor S. Jordan, which was published in 1909 by a local newspaper in Phoenix, Arizona. The problem is that apart from these two people, no one else has seen the underground city of the Grand Canyon. And the only photos that Kincaid took during his first visit have been lost. There are no artifacts from there in local museums or in the collection of the Smithsonian Institution, which was allegedly involved in the expeditions. But the most surprising thing is that to this day the location of the cave itself has never been found. Researcher Kincaid claims that he found the passage to the cave by accident. He was rafting the Colorado River in search of rare minerals, and about 68 kilometers upstream from the El Tovar Crystal Canyon, a man noticed spots of sedimentary rocks on the rock. When Kincaid approached and climbed the wall of the Grand Canyon, he noticed something similar to a staircase and a stone ledge, a shelf, behind which was the entrance to the cave. It was simply impossible to notice it from below. But more than 100 years have passed since the discovery. Hasn't any expedition yet set out to explore the traces of the existence of a mysterious civilization? The thing is that the entrance to the underground city is not so easy to find. The length of the Grand Canyon is 466 kilometers, and there are about 1,000 caves on its territory. Of these, researchers know about the location of about 335, and only one is open to visitors at all. Moreover, the entrance to some caves is literally blocked by a fence. For example, to Stanton Cave. After excavations, the cave was closed. The official reason is considered to be bats. The fact is that the Grand Canyon caves are home to the rare Townsend's long-eared bats, and any human intervention in the fragile ecosystem can harm the population. Therefore, the entrance to the cave was closed with a special grate that allows the bats to get inside, but does not allow tourists to do so. This version sounds convincing, if not for one, but the grate did not appear at the entrance to the cave immediately. For a long time, it was blocked by a dense fence through which no one could get inside at all. But tourists and archaeologists are not just forbidden to enter the caves of the Grand Canyon, they are not even allowed to look for them. The fact is that most of the caves are invisible if you look at the canyon from below. The chances of seeing the entrance from a drone or helicopter are much higher. But you won't be able to do this because there's a so-called prohibited zone in the canyon where it is not allowed to fly, neither helicopters nor drones. And even outside the prohibited zone, helicopters are not allowed to descend below 90 m above the canyon. According to the official version, such restrictions reduce the level of noise pollution. In this way, the management of the national park takes care of the wildlife population on its territory. But even more surprising is the fact that the Smithsonian Institution, instead of trying to find the entrance to the cave, simply claims that it does not exist. And the story about an ancient civilization there is considered a newspaper fiction. And this despite the fact that one of the researchers of the underground city was a professor at this institution. We are talking about S. A. Jordan, who was mentioned in a 1909 publication. According to the official statement of the Anthropological Department of the Smithsonian Institution, such a person never collaborated with them. And this is true. But another professor did collaborate with them. Jordan, only not S. A., but D.S., David Starr Jordan. He was the director of Stanford University and was engaged in ichthyology. And in 1898, he made an expedition to the Grand Canyon. Moreover, David Starr Jordan collaborated with Professor Trevor Kincaid. It cannot be unequivocally stated that he was the same Kincaid who found the cave with the underground city. But it is quite possible that in the article about the discovery of two famous and respected researchers, they could have accidentally or intentionally signed with different initials. In any case, the scandalous publication in the Arizona newspaper is not the only evidence that traces of the existence of a mysterious civilization could remain in the Grand Canyon. Skeptics believe that the story about the mysterious cave is a falsification created by unscrupulous journalists. And the detailed descriptions of the dungeon are a fiction, for which inspiration was drawn from other Arizona catacombs. Casa Malpais is an ancient city built by indigenous tribes around 1260. But it was the underground part that interested researchers the most. Archaeologist John Homan accidentally stumbled upon it. He noticed a large crack in the ground, through which a void was visible underground. During excavations, it turned out that these were catacombs where local residents buried their dead. And this surprised the researchers. The fact is that at that time such burials had never been found in the United States, and they were considered uncharacteristic for local cultures. The catacombs were narrow rooms about 9 m long and only 3 m wide. Niches were made on the walls of the rooms, in each of which, in a small recess, the bones of the dead lay. As in the case of the Grand Canyon Cave, there are no photographs of the Casa Malpais catacombs. The fact is that archaeologists do not take pictures or even put the catacombs on the map, because these places are sacred to the indigenous population. It sounds as if the journalists who described Kincaid's discovery could have made it all up based on the underground burials at Casa Malpais. But there is one caveat. The article about the Grand Canyon civilization was published in 1909, and the catacombs were only found in 1991. In the folklore of the indigenous tribes of the Ho, Paiute, and Hopi, there are references to a bloodthirsty people who once inhabited the territory of the Grand Canyon. Some researchers believe that the traces of this people were found during excavations in the closed Stanton Cave in the Grand Canyon. In the settlements of this hostile people, no bones or animal skins were found, which would indicate that the tribe was engaged in hunting. Instead, the researchers found human remains. In one of the caves, in a special recess used for storing food, archaeologists came across bones that probably belonged to children. Interestingly, during the study of the mysterious cave in the Grand Canyon, the researchers also found neither animal remains nor skins. Could an ancient civilization with a developed culture and its own writing system turn out to be bloodthirsty cannibals? Perhaps this is why researchers are keeping quiet about the existence of the find in the Grand Canyon. But its connections with eerie legends do not end there. In 1903, an article appeared in the newspaper The Arizona Republic about an unusual encounter in the Grand Canyon. A man named W. Stan told reporters that he had seen a strange, tall humanoid creature with long white hair and a beard. He claims that the creature had no clothes, and the nails on its fingers resembled predatory claws. The Pashi and Navajo tribes also have a legend about the Old Man from Above, a humanoid creature that goes hunting at night. There are also many eyewitness accounts, and in addition to Stevens, who allegedly saw such creatures. For example, the story of Boy Scouts from the 40s, recorded by cryptozoologist Don Davis. They claimed that while camping near the city of Payson, they noticed a tall creature covered in fur in the forest. According to the testimony of the Boy Scouts, the creature was definitely more than 2 meters tall. But the strangest thing is that eyewitnesses told about the smell of the creature. It supposedly left behind a trail that resembled a mixture of the aromas of rotting meat and musk. This was also reported by other witnesses, me and Susan Farnsworth, who saw this creature on the outskirts of the city of Young in 2008. One could write off these testimonies as an obsession with local legends, if not for two things that connect their stories with the civilization of the Grand Canyon. The first is, in fact, the smell. Professor Jordan mentioned in the article a strange darkroom that he never managed to explore. It was there that the researcher smelled a strange smell which he described as snake and the smell of death, very reminiscent of the musk and the smell of rotting meat described above. In addition, the creatures that eyewitnesses encountered were much taller than ordinary people, and the mummies found in the tomb of the underground city are also of unusual height. According to Kincaid, there are no shorter than 2.5 meters among them. Therefore, we will not know for sure whether there is a connection between the legends of indigenous peoples, modern folklore, and the mysterious civilization of the Grand Canyon until we actually find the entrance to the mysterious cave. Today, all we know about the underground city is myths, indirect evidence, and facts from a dubious article in the local newspaper. But if I were you, I would still be careful walking through the Grand Canyon. After all, if the legends about the cannibal civilization turn out to be true, then you won't be able to tell anyone about it. What do you think? Does the mysterious cave really exist? Write your thoughts in the comments.